Let's talk the latest in the Ray Stadium saga with our friend County Commissioner Chris Latvala. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
All right, bud. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You know, it's kind of funny, and I know you won't pit yourself, but before you came on with our show, I'm taking credit. Everybody was looking at you as public enemy number one. Yeah. I was like, let's hear from this guy first. And the more we talked, and I was so pleasantly not surprised, but I was just so happy with our talk because I was so glad that you were able to speak on behalf of your constituents and everybody there, and just looking at it from a different viewpoint. And now I see you on the radio, and I'm just so happy that you're able to kind of get your voice out there and be able to speak on this conversation. Because, Chris, we see the article recently here with Mark Topkin and what Stu had to say at the owners' meetings. And it's just the latest thing where I'm trying to be optimistic. And I know you are too, because it's better for our region if baseball stays here. But now with these last things, I don't know if we have the money, or if I don't know if we have to spend the money. Like, it's just another thing. What is your gut telling you as we get closer? Do you think the Rays will pony up this money, or say they will, by March 31st?
Yeah, you were the first show that I was on. And since then, I've been on a ton of them. And, I'm a huge sports fan. And it's interesting that it's intersected with being in politics. I thought Stu's comments were baffling, and for months the Rays have said that they don't have the money. And now he's saying, oh, we have access to the money. We have the money. We just need to decide if we want to go forward with it. So now he's kind of bragging that he, has the money. And which is baffling to me because they signed an agreement in July. And that whole interview with Topkin was just bizarre. I do remain optimistic because after doing your show, and I'm almost certain it was after doing your show, I talked with Commissioner Rob Manfred, and Rob Manfred is committed to Tampa Bay. He told me he was committed to Tampa Bay. He was the reason that I voted for the bonds. And, until Rob Manfred says otherwise, I trust him to have the backs of the baseball fans in Tampa Bay and Rays fans. And, Rob Manfred is not publicly going to bash Stu Sternberg. Stu Sternberg is one of his 30 bosses. But something that was interesting in the article yesterday, in the interview with Rob Manfred, is Rob Manfred said that he's spending an awful lot of time with Stu Sternberg. And which is kind of odd, that the commissioner would have to be spending, a lot of time with, one of his owners that's going through the stadium saga. And, and he was talking about how Stu has a lot of decisions that he needs to make, and a lot of tough decisions, and, things like that. And, I in my heart and in my gut, I don't think anything has changed in the last couple months. I don't believe that the Rays are going to go through with this deal, but I do believe that we'll have a new owner. And that does not come from Rob Manfred. He never said, that we'll have a new owner. But that's just reading the tea leaves and hearing from other people. I've heard that there are ownership groups in Tampa Bay that are interested in trying to buy the Rays. Unless that has changed in the last day or two, or in the last week, I think that's still the case. I know for certain that the Rays have approached people to buy equity in the team, because those people have told me that. And so, for Stu to now say, oh, the team's not for sale, I believe that's just a tactic that he's using, to try to maybe drum up support for, to sell the team. But I remain optimistic that the Rays will be in Tampa Bay. I'm not going to promise that they'll be in Pinellas County, because I think, once, March 31st happens and passes, anything can happen after that.
Chris, you know what? I'm reading And when I read things like I read in that article, I don't just read them on, all right, what does Jay Recher think? I read that and I put myself in your shoes. I put myself in Ken Welch's shoes. And the efforts put forth by the city council in St. Petersburg, as well as the Pinellas County commissioners, to come up with this money, to vote, to do all of this legwork, and then to have the guy that's supposed to be on the other side of this bill saying, we may have the money, but we don't know if we're going to invest it. I mean, slap in the face may be a little bit too strong of a term, but Chris, it's just like, I'm reading this and I'm like, I want to support Stu. I want to be like, hey guys, you're looking at this from the wrong perspective. But I'm reading this and I'm not no spring chicken. I wasn't born yesterday, but I know the efforts. Like, I know what you and the Pinellas County commissioners have put forth. I know the conversations that Ken Welch is attaching this whole thing to his legacy as the mayor of St. Pete. He has been on the forefront and the face of this whole deal. And then to have the owner of the team go, yeah, we have the money. Now we just have to decide whether we want to use it or not. I mean, did that kind of strike you in a way of like, come on, man, like that's not right.
On December 17th, when we voted for the bonds, I said that I didn't trust Stu Sternberg. And it's, I mean, I'm not sure that there are too many people left that trust him. Mm-hmm. And if he remains the owner, I'm not sure that he could go to another city, even if it's Tampa, and even if it's going to the Hillsborough County folks to try to get a deal. And because he's burned so many bridges, he had a deal in Tampa that wasn't in Ybor City that wasn't good enough for him. And that was a very good deal. And so even if it's, people are saying, they're going to go to Orlando, and unless the definition of Tampa Bay has increased that much to encompass all of I-4, that's not going to happen. But so say that, okay, MLB gives Stu Sternberg permission to go talk to Orlando. Those folks now see what Stu Sternberg has left on the table, and they're going to have to pay over $1 billion for a stadium. And I can tell you firsthand that is going to take over 2 years to get across the finish line. And once he signs an agreement, he will ask for more money because that's what he's done in the past. That's what he's doing now. And he will find some excuse and some reason why he needs more money. And because that's just his nature. That's just the way that he does business. And so, and I believe that the owners see that. I certainly MLB sees that. And so I think it's going to be impossible for him to remain the owner. And, unless his grand plan is to stay at the Trop and try to renegotiate a lease at the Trop, I think his only play that he's left to have if he, reneges on this deal is to sell the team.
Chris, do you sense that there has been a change since your hesitation on this deal? We talked about it months ago. Do you feel like whether it's other commissioners or just people like in your area, are people, I don't want to say coming around because we don't want it to be, but do you feel like more people's eyes are open to kind of the way that this deal is really coming down, like becoming more pessimistic or just kind of like, just like this exhale? Do you feel that?
I mean, since December, we haven't talked about it on the county commission. Mm-hmm. We're still in hurricane recovery mode. Right. And we were in hurricane recovery mode even then. Mm-hmm. But we did this, we got this across the finish line, in large part because of Mr. Manfred, because we didn't want to have this on the table. But it, we haven't talked about it. And I think a lot of people's attitude is that, there's nothing left to discuss with the Rays. I'm still talking about it just because I'm, frankly ticked off at Stu. And, for how he's acting. And, for a while, it was a 49-day delay, and the cost overruns were going to be $200 million. And now it's, oh, well, we have the money, but let's see if we want to spend it or not. And so, I think there always was going to be, he was always going to try to have a way out, once it got down to the finish line, because I think deep down he doesn't have the money. He wants his other owners to see, oh, I'm one of you, but I think deep down he knows that he's not, and it's not a slam against him. He has more money than I will ever have. The day that he sells the team, he's going to be a billionaire, but I'm not sure that he can write a $700 million check next week.
So why doesn't he just sell? I mean, it's hard because it's just speculation, but is it just the stature, you think, Chris? It's just one of those things say that you're an MLB owner, because like it doesn't seem like if I was like this and I didn't seem like I was very invested, I would just be like, yeah, just sell the team. I'm going to go do something else. I don't know why he still hangs around then if this is the way he operates. I
mean, that's a great question. I mean, he's in a club of 29 other people in the world, owning a Major League Baseball team. That's an incredible club that I will never be a part of. And I'm sure that there's some pride involved, but at the end of the day, do you want to, your legacy to be that you would never be able to get a deal done, and I don't think that Major League Baseball will necessarily take over the Rays, but that's happened before with the Expos. Right. And so, I don't think they're going to want, perpetual limbo with the Rays and with the stadium. And it's not because the money's not there. The money's sitting on the table. It's now his attitude is, do I even want to write the check? And, and if you're one of his colleagues, do you want to have an owner that has that attitude? When 29 other people can just write the check if they want to.
What did you think of the deal when the whole Montreal thing came to pass? Because I remember they asked me, what do you think? We were in a meeting and they're like, what do you think, baseball guy? And I was just like, I don't see how this is going to work. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, what did you think when that whole thing came down a couple years ago?
I mean, I thought it was baffling, but, for the people that say that Major League Baseball will just let him do whatever he wants, the people that will have to approve Stu Sternberg to look at another market, or will have to approve Stu Sternberg to sell the team to somebody that will look in another market, have already told Stu Sternberg no publicly once. They literally laughed at him when he did the Montreal deal. And so he didn't get what he wanted then. And so, who's to say that these people will let him go to Orlando? Who's to say that they'll let him sell to somebody who will take the team to Orlando, which, by the way, Orlando is a smaller media market than Tampa Bay is. And so, the owners want to have two expansion teams. They want to get paid with expansion fees. They don't want to deal with another owner that is just trying to relocate so he can enrich his pockets. And these owners, by the way, several of them give Stu Sternberg a check every year through revenue sharing. And that money goes directly into his pocket. And so, those are the people that are going to be voting on whether or not he gets to move. And in order for him to be able to move, number one, he has to get MLB's permission to even talk to somebody outside the market. So he has to do that first. And then number two, once he has an agreement, he has to have 23 other owners approve the move. And so, that's a tall order. And the Tampa Bay, what's going on here in Tampa Bay and what went on in Oakland a year or two ago is two separate issues. Fisher in Oakland never had a signed agreement with the new stadium, and it was never funded by the local government. And so they would have an owner, MLB and the other owners would basically be giving an out to a guy that had signed an agreement that was fully funded by the local government. And so I just don't see that happening.
So what happens then if March 31st comes around, Chris, and then Stu just comes in, the Rays just go and they just put their hands up like this? I mean, are they on the hook for anything because they signed this agreement, right?
Right.
And you guys put all this legwork into we're
Right.
going to do this, we got the bed tax here, all these things, we're going to the bonds, blah blah blah, this and that. And then if he just goes, yeah, we don't have it, is there like a breach of contract thing? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there
situation
might
go?
be some legal remedies.
Mhm.
The bonds were not financed; they were approved, but they weren't financed until the Rays actually put in the money. There's some fees that have been incurred by the county, and I'm sure that there are fees that have been incurred by the city. I can tell you that he's not going to be able to come back and try to renegotiate things. On March 31st, I'm going to tell the county administrator who works for the county commission that, tell Mr. Manfred that, you're not going to be negotiating with Stu Sternberg. You'll negotiate with a new owner, but you're not going to negotiate with a guy who has, backed out of an agreement that he signed.
So you guys both meet that day, Chris? Does the city council and the county commissioners both meet on March 31st?
I'm not sure, but I talk to our administrator regularly, and I know that our administrator has talked to Major League Baseball and has talked to Mr. Manfred. And so I think that we would certainly be open to another. If there was another owner, we certainly would talk to them. But I don't know if Stu just wants more money, there's nothing left to discuss. We have done our due diligence. And, if there's cost overruns, number one, he agreed to them. But number two, okay, show us how much money you want and itemize them to show how much money you're out. Because part of those.
So I'm sorry, I want to just clarify that real quick. So he signed the deal, cost overruns, that will be something we take care of. But if he erroneously said that and was like, hey, I screwed up, I might need 50 million or 75 million more. If he was more transparent about that, do you think it would be more palatable on both sides?
But they would have to give something back. So,
but I'm just saying the fact that he doesn't even say it, like you said, he doesn't even itemize it. So if he's just like, oh, it costs more. Well, how much is it? And he doesn't tell you. You're like, all right, we're supposed to just take you at your word then?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, their request is they want more money. Well, how much more money do you want? What is the reason? Well, just give me more money. That doesn't work. Because they will always want more money. Part of the reason why they agreed to pay for the cost overruns was because of the land development deal that they're getting the profits from on the other part of the deal. And so if they're not going to cover the cost overruns, then let's renegotiate the land development deal that was a sweetheart deal that the city of St. Pete gave them.
Yeah, and and as well as I do, I think that's the crux of the entire thing. That's the crux right there, because if Stu sells the team, he still has his fingers in everything going on there. So it would have been easy to rip up the deal and do another deal. But if you rip up that entire deal, the city nor the county is probably going to allow that same type of thing to be put in there. Maybe a version of it, but it ain't going to be, as you just alluded to, the same sweetheart deal that he got the first
time. And if you remember when they were firing letters back and forth, during the delays and saying, oh, it's gone up, or now the stadium's going to, because y'all delayed 21 days, the stadium's going to be pushed back a year. One of the letters that they sent us said that they had spent $50 million on the stadium. So right before the vote that we took in December, I asked our attorney to request from them evidence that they spent $50 million. So the Rays, to their credit, sent back an email showing, the expenses for their stadium. Well, it added up to $11 million, not $50 million. So I have no clue what the other $39 million that they said that they spent on the stadium. And so if they say, the range of their cost overruns has been anywhere between $100 million and $200 million. Well, we had a stadium expert working with us that has dealt with like 25 stadium deals over the last couple of decades around the country. And one of the questions I asked him was, during, all of your experience, have you ever seen a 49-day so-called bond delay or 49-day construction delay result in a 200 or $100 million cost overrun? And he started laughing. He said, no, I've never seen that. And so what I think it is the Rays budgeting, the Rays lost revenue, which I completely agree that they have probably lost revenue because of the hurricane and playing in Tampa. That the county's not paying them for that. That's on them. But if they're not going to show their work, there's nothing to discuss. And even if they do, it's not our responsibility. And, that they agreed to pay for the cost overruns. They agreed to pay for their cost of the stadium. And now they're coming back to the citizens. And by the way, if the county doesn't pay for it, the only other option is the city of St. Pete, which, by the way, got hit by the very same hurricane that tore the roof off the Trop. And so basically they're going to hurricane victims, asking them to raise their taxes to pay a billionaire, which let's see how that works. And so Stu's trying to get sympathy, and people are not going to sympathize for a billionaire.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I interviewed him at FanFest last year, and he was, saying, I'm taking a loss of my P&L this year. And I'm just like, your payroll's $90 million.
Right.
And when people, and this is before the hurricanes, people are struggling to buy eggs and to put gas in their car. I'm like, and I said it the next day, and I looked at him too, and I was like, that's the last thing people want to hear from a person that owns a professional sports franchise, that they're having trouble on their P&L statement. I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
He bought the team for $200 million. If he sells it tomorrow, he will make at least $1 billion. I'm sorry. I have zero sympathy for somebody in that situation. I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for him making a buck. But don't come to the taxpayers with hat in hand crying a sob story when you could sell the team tomorrow and make at least $1 billion, if not more.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, you said about the stadium, when I had Colleen Wright on from the Tampa Bay Times, she said the same thing. Like, the person with the stadium, he was like, yeah, I don't see that. And we understand. Like, that's the whole thing that for anybody that is, like, still in support of this whole thing, like on the Rays and on the Stu side, they're like, well, you guys got to understand the hurricane hit. We're like, yeah, we get that. But there's also like, all right, well, you're going to have to keep moving forward. And the guy that everybody was like, all right, he's the stadium expert on this. Like, everybody understood that, like, he's the connoisseur of things like this. And this guy said, yeah, I don't know if the overrun's going to be that much.
Right.
And everybody's kind of agreed to that. And then that's the only argument that you have.
And so, and if the agreement is, okay, it's not 200 million, and if it's 50 million, what billionaire can absorb a $50 million cost overrun when they're going to be making hundreds of millions of dollars off of the development deal? Like, that just doesn't jive with me. I don't understand that.
And even if he said, like, all right, let's say it is 50, Chris, and he does say, like, I'm going to have trouble doing this. You may believe it, you may not believe it. But at least he would tell you that it's 50. Can you do 20? The city does 20 and I do 10 or something.
Right.
But the fact that, like, it's almost like a kid asking his parent, hey, I'm going to the movies. Can I have some money? How much do you need? I don't know. Just give me a bunch of money. Well, how much do you need?
Yeah, I need more.
No, I need more than what you're going to give me. I don't even know what you're going to, I don't even know the amount. What kind of movie are you going to? Are you going to the movie in the States? Like, gosh.
And if it was, another owner locally, like, Venick, which is, the classic example, or even like a Glazer or, a Steinbrenner, somebody like that is in the same situation as him, the attitude may be different, but Stu has had such a history of the way that he deals with stadiums. It's just like, dude, like, we've been through this for 15 years, and this is the play that you're going to make. You're going to say, if you don't get what you want, baseball's in danger in Tampa Bay. You've already made that play. Now you're going to ask for more money. And when that doesn't happen, this is what you're going to do. And it's just the same, show literally on repeat the last 15 years with him. And it's exhausting. And, he's run out of people that he can deal with, because and it's sad because on the field, he's a very successful owner.
Mm-hmm.
The front office people that he's had and has currently, the baseball operations people, they're brilliant. And he's brought 2 pennants, but it's just like, dude, you can't, you're incapable of getting a stadium deal finalized because you can't get out of your own way, because you're trying to suck every nickel out of the deal when that's not, like, politicians are not, like, we're trying to protect tax dollars. We're not trying to enrich you. And when you don't have the goodwill that he hasn't created, it just, like, people are not going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
What's the next step, Chris, before I let you go? What's the next step for the Pinellas County Commissioners in this deal? You're just waiting, right?
Yeah. And I think after that, it's going to really be in Major League Baseball's hands, and if I had to predict, I say that we have a new owner, and I think it'll be sooner rather than later. I think it's something that could, and I may be wrong about this, but I will be very surprised if this deal does not go through. I will be very surprised if Stu is the owner this time next year.
Wow, that is definitely something we'll keep an eye on. Pinellas County Commissioner Chris Latvala. Yeah. Chris, I'm so glad that we've gotten to know each other, and man, it's just been so great to be able to kind of unpack this entire thing, because at the end of the day, like, this is about the people that live in our area, right? Like, as much as it's our baseball team and Stu Sternberg, like, this affects everybody, and baseball staying here benefits everyone, but it's got to be, it can't just totally screw over the people that live here and the people that make the decisions. So thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon, buddy.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.